G'day everyone, this is Health Highlights. Health Highlights is a show about health, health professionals and the people and the stories behind the names we hear about, but we seldom get to meet. So today, we are so blessed in this country to know that if we call 000, within a couple of minutes, there's going to be an ambulance dispatched to our help wherever we are in Australia pretty much. So today we wanted to go behind this incredible organisation and give you a look behind the scenes and have a look through an ambulance and see all about what a paramedic does and what our ambulance service is all about. And today we have one of the paramedics here in Newcastle, Nate, with us. How are you, Nate?
I'm great, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, some stats that you may not realise is that there's over 3,000 call-outs a day to the ambulance service, which is a response every 38 seconds, which is phenomenal to think about ambulances going out like that pretty much all the time. So, firstly, Nate, what was it that I've just had a great ride on? Because that was a lot of fun, I have to say.
Yeah, that's the new Striker stretcher, actually. These we've only had for the last couple of years, but they're a powered stretcher. It's a great investment, saving a lot of ambulance paramedics' backs.
Awesome.
They're powered, you can just press a button that goes up and down, and it loads in pretty easy. It's pretty good as well, so they're great to have for patients.
Absolutely, and it was a good fun ride, I have to say. So now, paramedic, why did you get into, how did you get into this profession?
It's a bit funny, actually. I never thought that I'd be in the medical field. I used to cringe at the sight of needles and all that kind of stuff, but here I am. I decided I never wanted to be in an office. I wanted something that was challenging, rewarding, and something that I could give to the community as well. And this just came up as the best option. So I went to uni for 3 years, and I got over my cringing at all that stuff, and now I love it. I love being in this job. I've been in it for just over 2 years now. So
brilliant.
Yeah, and hopefully a long time to come.
Good on you, good on you. So can you just give us a snapshot of the life of a paramedic? So like, what do you do each day? How does it look? I'm sure it varies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely.
Yeah, it can be so different.
Yeah.
But the start of every shift looks the same. We get in before our start, and we'll check over the car. We'll make sure that all our gear's working and that we've got everything we need. We check our drugs stock. We check our kits to make sure we've got enough oxygen and enough first aid gear. And then we're ready for the day, and we can get called out from anything, you know, from trauma to mental health to hospital transfers, you know, the elderly who might need a hand getting up off the floor because there's no one around to help, or even to big car accidents and things like that. Yeah,
so it would be very varied. So what would you say are the major things that you see? Obviously a bit of mental health, car accidents. What else is there? Heart attacks?
Yeah, absolutely. Heart attack, stroke. We deal with children a lot, and pregnant mothers. We can go to, largely the older generation as well. We see a lot, and we help them with a lot of problems because they're a lot more prone to get more illness. So we get a good chance to help them out as well.
So what's the funniest call out you've had?
The funniest?
Yeah.
Look, I could tell you, we got called out to sound like a big car accident. There was a car on the side of the road, someone unconscious, trapped in the car. So we go lights and sirens, get around all the traffic. We go over the bridge and find this car on the side of the road and think, oh, it doesn't look too bad. Let's find out. Yeah, there's someone in there. And we pull over, we run over, knock on the window, open the door up, and this guy goes, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Oh, we got a call out for your help. Are you okay? He said, yeah, I just got off night shift. I just pulled over to have a nap. So, yeah, we get stuff like that all the time, you know. Someone drives past and thinks, oh, that doesn't look good. I'll call 000, let someone else deal with it.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, that happens.
Very good. Now, look, I know that everyone would be super keen to have a bit of a look through what you've got here in the ambulance and see some of the equipment that you have. So, can we have a bit of a tour?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Awesome. So here we are. Let's have a look inside.
All right, so this is the inside of the ambulance, and here we have all our gear. This is all the gear that we like to take into the jobs largely. Yep. This one, for example, is our oxygen kit, our Oxyviver.
Yep.
And this is where we obviously
right.
have the oxygen. So we've got plenty of gear in here. This oxygen cylinder, when it's full, carries just under 500 litres.
Oh, wow.
Which sounds like a lot, but if we're using it all on a patient, we can be using this, for example. This is the bag valve mask. This is how we help breathe for the patient.
Yep.
So we could be using this on 15 or even up to 25 litres of oxygen per minute, which means that this thing would last 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
Which isn't very long. So that's why we try and be real quick on scene.
Absolutely.
So we don't necessarily have all to last. But then we get into the car, we've got more oxygen in the car. We've got 2 large cylinders that hold each 1,600 litres of oxygen when full, and they connect to various taps in the car.
Yep.
We've got plenty of stock out there if we need throughout the day. And yeah, so that's the oxygen kit. Another piece of gear that we've got is, this is called the eye gel. This is basically a laryngeal airway. It goes down to the larynx, the back of the throat.
Yep.
And it's a great piece of equipment. You put lubrication on it and it slides on down. It's designed anatomically to fit with the back of the throat.
Wow.
And the gel it's made of warms up and then it molds itself around to the specific anatomy of the patient.
Wow.
And so it's a great tool for being able to breathe for the patient if the airway is compromised. So this is a great piece of equipment. This is our defibrillator. It's our cardiac monitor. Mm-hmm. And basically we connect the patient to these electrodes and it reads their heart rhythm for us. And we can see a lot about their heart, and this can also help us to diagnose what's going on, what kind of rhythm their heart's in.
Wow, great.
And then if their heart's in a shockable rhythm, we can defibrillate them and hopefully bring them back out of that.
That's what we want.
Yeah, this can help also identify if a patient's having a heart attack as well. So what happens in the heart is the electrical activity changes as the heart becomes more and more oxygen starved. And so this can help identify those subtle changes on their heart rhythm. Yep. And having seen those, we can get in contact with a cardiologist. So in the back here is a phone a transmitter. So we can actually transmit straight to, in Newcastle, John Hunter Hospital's got the cath lab. And the cardiologist there will pick up, have a look at the rhythm because we've transmitted it to them. Wow. And they can give us advice here on the road while we're still 20 minutes, half an hour away.
That is amazing, hey.
Yeah.
That's so good. And I mean, most of this stuff looks like it's mobile, so you can use it here or use it out there, which is so important when it comes to an emergency.
That's right, yeah. Sometimes you've got 4 or 5 kits hanging off the stretcher and you got the backpack parts out and you got all this gear, but it's all to help the community, and I'm so glad that we've got it.
Great, awesome. Look, so thanks for that tour. That was fabulous to just get a bit of a snapshot. So if I was to come to a scene of an emergency, so I just saw an accident and it wasn't someone sleeping on the side of the road and they actually had something happen to them. Yeah. What would be the key or the critical things for me to actually do to assist you guys in actually helping them when you get there?
Yeah, I think first of all, make sure that you don't become a patient yourself.
Yeah.
So if there's danger, stay clear of it, try and minimise that. So before we get there, things that you can do is make sure the patient's okay. You can do as much as you can. You can keep them in the recovery position on their side, make sure that they're breathing okay. And something else that would help as well is if you can gather any medical information about them. So even if you could write down on a notepad or a piece of paper for us their name and their date of birth, any allergies that they have and medications they take, and significant medical history that might help us. Things like that are great to be able to get from you or someone who knows the patient. It's really helpful because then we have a story to tell the hospital on the other end and treatment on the way. We know that we should avoid these medications or they've got a history of this happening before. So it just helps us to treat them holistically,
Great.
Rather than being stuck thinking, we've never seen or heard of this person before in our life, Yep. So that can be a challenge.
That's great. And so when it comes to a serious incident or accident, what are the critical things to keeping anyone alive when they're in a moment where potentially it's life or death?
Yeah, well, like I said before, obviously making sure that you don't become another patient is always something we try and keep in mind. But for that patient, it comes down to the ABCs for us. It's always their airway and their breathing and their circulation, so their heart. Because obviously if their airway is compromised, they can't breathe at all, then that's a problem. So that's a simple thing. if someone's unconscious and slumped forward, you can just lift their head up, because if you're slumped forward and you're unconscious, then your airway can become blocked. Things like that, it's important to consider. Their breathing, we have gear that we can, like we showed you before, oxygen, that we can help make sure that they're breathing properly. And if they're not breathing, then breathing for the patient is something that might be necessary, and their heart circulation. And one of the big savers for people who've had heart attacks and whose hearts have stopped is CPR.
Yeah.
So those compressions on the heart that keeps it pumping, or if the heart's able to do it itself, that's something that will keep people alive. So
Wonderful.
A, B, C.
Awesome, so good. So one of the things I've noticed, because I've seen ambulance come a few times in some different things, is that do they train you to be so relaxed when you come to a scene? Because everyone else seems to be frantically trying to do stuff, and you just seem to waltz in very calmly and then waltz out. Is that what they train you to do?
Well, that's part of our training, because it's important. I think if we're panicked, then that gives everyone else a reason to panic as well. So we're trained to be like ducks who float around on the surface. They look very calm and graceful, but their feet underneath the surface going crazy. So
love that illustration.
Up here, we're going 1,000 miles an hour, but we just try and keep everything calm, and that way people can think clearly. We can get things in the correct order so that we don't miss anything that's important, and that we can treat every patient the best we can.
Brilliant, wonderful. So on a personal note, now you've been here like 2 years doing the job, and you love it, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
I love people who love what they do. But it must be quite confronting at times to see some of the things that you see, some of the accidents you've seen, and sort of what happening to people. How do you, as a person, and even the ambulance service, how do you deal with the crises that you confront emotionally, and how do you sort of walk through some of these things to make sure that you're healthy?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and it's an important thing, because it's right, we do deal with a lot of things, and it's funny, people sometimes ask us, what's the worst thing you've ever seen? And I just think, I don't think you realise what you're actually asking me, because you would hate to hear about some of the things that we have to see. So I think that one thing that I find really important is debriefing after it. So getting a chance to sit down and have a talk with your partner or other people who've been involved, other police or rescue or SES or volunteers. I find that to be really helpful and really important, because then you can just go through the things and everyone can sit down and say, you know what, actually we did do our best, maybe things worked out, maybe they didn't, but there's only so much we can do. And so debriefing is really important, and the ambulance service is great for that. They'll really make an effort. Managers will try and get you off road and get you that chance, which is really important. Personally, I think of, the 4 health groups of my own living. I think of my physical health and try and stay active,
so good,
diet well. I think of my emotional health, the way I connect with my wife and my child at home, and relationships I have with other people. I think about my mental health and the way I'm challenging myself, reading books or studying or things like that. And then my spiritual health, I'm involved with the church, and just that ability to be able to be real with myself and think, where do I find my purpose? And
so good.
So they're the things that keep me going, and just try and keep things in perspective. And at the end of the day, it's an honour to be the person who's been able to be there for that person in their time of need, whether things worked out or if they didn't, it was an honour to be the paramedic for them. So I just remember that as well.
So good. Well, look, we honour you because you guys are on the front line, and without you, there's many lives that would have been lost. And it is just wonderful to see what you do and hear, and for you guys to share this time with us. I hope you guys have really enjoyed seeing and hearing a little bit about the ambulance service. And look, I'd encourage you to honour our ambulance service guys, because they do so much for us. And I'm sure at times that you don't get the thanks that you deserve, but we want to thank you and thank you for your time. And thank you everyone for joining us. I'm sure you found that extremely fascinating, as I did. We have an incredible interview for you for next week. So remember, same time, 12:30, same place. Remember, healing is a gift, health a responsibility. Have a great week. Thanks.
Awesome.